Good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in once again with Bill J. Today we're going to do a short video in regards to the front end of the EG and just do a quick walk around and see exactly what the EG may need. This video may be helpful to you in regards to your vehicle or any Honda or Acura in first to second gen years. Just to take a quick look at the ball joints, the wheel bearings, the upper control arms, and maybe even the suspension. So let's jump right into it. Okay guys, we're going to go ahead and check out the front end. Before we go ahead and remove the wheel, I want you guys to go ahead and shake the wheel. What I mean by shake the wheel is shake it up and down, left and right, and that way you can get a feel on the front end components and see what it might possibly need. Another thing is, if it looks rusted, it looks old, go ahead and replace it. It's probably not in good condition. So I'll go ahead and I'll show you a quick shakedown of this front end tire on the passenger side of the EG. So it's slightly lifted off the ground. If you're lifting the vehicle at high levels, go ahead and slide under a jack stand. This is slightly off the ground. I could just stick my fingers under it, so I'm not going to go ahead and put a jack stand under there just for demonstration purposes. But if you're ever lifting it up very high, put a tire under it and put a jack stand under it. So again, shake it left and right. So I do have a little play left and right. Take a visual inspection as you go ahead and shaking the wheel. I don't see the upper control arm moving, and I don't see the tie rods moving. So this makes me to believe that it is actually the wheel bearing. So let me go ahead and go up and down. I actually have more play up and down than I do left and right. Let's see if you guys can see that on camera or even hear it. Yeah, that's definitely a wheel bearing. It's not horrible. If it's really bad, you'll see lots of play. Let me go ahead and show you on the other side with the axle removed. You can really tell if the wheel bearing's bad with the axle removed. So let me go ahead and show you on the inside of that. Alright, so now that you've seen what the wheel bearing looks like from the inside, what a bad wheel bearing looks like, I'll go ahead and I'm going to remove this tire. Just keep in mind that wiggle can also be caused by a loose axle nut. So make sure that axle nut is torqued down to the correct specs of your vehicle. You don't want to replace a wheel bearing when you actually have a loose axle nut. So with that said, let's move on to the next component. If it's rusted, I would recommend replacing it. If it's been on the car long enough and it's been rusted to the point where the bolts are starting to get rounded out, or it's hard to get a socket on it, I would go ahead and replace that. Let's take a closer look at all these components over here. They don't look too healthy if you ask me. So if we take a look here, you can just see on that upper control arm right there, that thing is rusted and it looks horrible. The ball joint itself is not split. That bushing is not split, but I don't feel comfortable using that. You could see the excessive rust right there on the bolts, the ball joints. It looks like an aftermarket eBay junk, so I can only assume that that is horrible, and I would not be using that. Take a look down. The suspension itself is not that bad. The rotors, I would go ahead and I'd probably reuse those and then change them in the future. The tie rod right there, you can see it's completely rusted out. I wouldn't trust I wouldn't put my trust in anything that's completely rusted out like that. You could even see the inner tie rods. They looked bad as well. You could see that the boot is actually completely split, so it's not even holding on anymore. So that would be replaced as well. The control arms themselves, they look a little rusted as well. So just keep all that in mind. If it looks rusted and it's pretty old, I'd probably get rid of it. So that's the inspection for this side. It's really not too bad, but I would definitely start replacing all these components. That's just the type of person I am. So I would replace all of this: upper control arm, tie rods, inner and outer, the boots. I would start from there, and anything that needs to be replaced, I would go ahead and replace it. You can also see that the brake pads they're okay. You can see the meat right there. They have enough meat, but I would replace them. If I'm going to do the whole front end, why not? I'll go ahead and I'll replace them. But that's just a quick inspection of this side. Let's go ahead and jump over to the other side and shake that other wheel. Okay, guys. So now we're on the driver's side. We do have the wheel still intact. And let me go ahead and show you what it's supposed to look like. There's not supposed to be any play whatsoever. So, see the whole car shaking? The wheel is not shaking. There's no play. That's more tie rod play. There we go. See that tie rod? That's how it's supposed to be. When you start to shake it and you feel that clinking and clacking and clunking, that's no good. This is normal. So don't worry about that. This is normal. I got no play. I'm actually moving the whole vehicle, which is actually good. So let me go ahead and remove this. These lug nuts. Remove your tire. Lay it down and put that under the vehicle. Let me get you guys close. Okay. So, here we are, once again. Here's your upper control arm. It's definitely been on there for quite some time. You can see that. Look at that rust. Cobwebs. You can tell this has been on there for quite some time. You can see the bushings back there. They're all rusted out. That's a clear sign that these are done for. You can see, even on the coilovers, they've got rust on those. A good trick you can do, you can wrap it around with electrical tape, and that'll save those threads from getting rotted out. If they're not too bad, you can actually take a wire brush and wire brush those out, and then you should be able to go ahead and lower and raise your vehicle. Here's the tie rods again. This boot is actually intact. I'm going to go ahead and replace both of those because I'm not too happy with the massive amount of rust all over the place. Here is the control arm. That's completely rusted out. I would definitely replace that as well. Here's the outer tie rod. You can see that this particular tie rod had the option of greasing it, but the nut itself to actually grease it is completely missing. So let's take a look at the ball joint. That is not too bad. At least the bushing is still there. But again, I would replace it. Just looking at all the other components and looking at it as an overall, I would replace all of that. So that's what I would look out for, especially rust. When it comes down to rust, you don't want to see any rusted components in the car. especially lower control arms. Those are a major component, so just keep an eye out for that. But this is what it looks like. This is pretty much, doesn't look too bad. I know the ball joint on this side is actually completely shot. You can see it split there, so that will be getting replaced as well. Another thing to look out for in these Hondas, a lot of people mess with the wiring, so check out the wiring. And then there's something that I wanted to show you here. This is the fuse box for the EG. This is actually not the correct cover, so these are all wrong. The battery fuse is not there, the ignition fuse is not here. This might be to an EK, maybe an Integra, I'm not 100% sure, but these are things you want to look out for too. People like to rig stuff and then claim electrical problems. Take a look in there, guys. Look at that. Those are rigged in there, or should I say squished in there. So those are no good. Look at that. Caps missing. Stripped out bolts. Or should I say stripped out screws. And then take a look at that fuse there. You got a mini fuse where there's supposed to be a bigger fuse. So all this stuff I'm going to go ahead and take a deep look into and just redo everything. So this is a quick video on how to check out the front end. I did remove all the bumpers and fenders for you guys to see everything that I was looking at here. So that's pretty much concludes this video. If you want to stay tuned for this EG, I got a lot coming. There's a lot to do. So again, thanks guys for tuning in. And as always, like, share, subscribe.